Coming up, what an excellent day for foreshadowing. Well, howdy folks, and welcome to Minute 43 of the Exorcist Minute, a show where we endeavor to examine, extrapolate, and excavate The Exorcist, minute by terrifying minute. My name is Lester Ryan Clark.
And I'm Keenan Diaz.
And we'll be your holy guides on this journey through what some have called the scariest movie of all time. Okay, so our minute begins with Sharon saying, "Was he acting up?"
And it ends with Chris saying, "Reagan?"
Yes. Almost ended on the iconic line, but there was a little more to go. So we'll have to open our minute with that line. If you'll remember, folks, Chris and Sharon had just finished saying goodbye to Burke. Goodbye, Burke.
Bye, Burke. See you next week. Yeah.
Yep. See you on set. Have a nice trip. See you next fall. Uncle Tito's, it's really funny.
It's really funny. His head all the way around.
All the way around. What do you think, Jesuit Dean? Okay, so saying goodbye to Burke, and we do hope someone was driving him home. I think Louis was, So as Chris and Sharon prepare to rejoin the party, Sharon comments that he was acting up, which Chris thinks is an understatement, and she says flying is what he was, which I have never heard used as a euphemism for acting up at a party or being drunk. We were just talking about that in the last minute, like different ways to say someone was drunk. But does that sound weird to you, flying? Like, oh boy, Burke had a little too much to drink and now he's really flying.
Well, you certainly know what she means when she says it, right? I've never heard anyone say that, but
yeah.
Very 70s, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, Burke was far out, guys.
They used to say things that I think that we don't do anymore, where they used to say for drunk that he was really high.
Right.
And we don't say that anymore. So you see that sometimes in old movies, he was really high. And sometimes our students are like, he was high. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
We'd say drunk, and high is for drugs.
Right. So, today, high exclusively refers to like being high, like on some other drug that's not alcohol.
Right.
Yeah. But in this case, Burke was flying. Right. Just flying through those red lights. So in any case, Chris checks herself. In the mirror before she wrecks herself.
Because she's worried she's insane. And
it just popped into my head. I had to say it. Captain Harry was like, say it.
I once saw somebody say that, like seriously in an almost fight.
What?
Like, boy, you better like for real, like getting up in someone's face and saying, boy, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself. I don't know how the other guy didn't just like laugh at him.
I was going to say, is that how the fight ended, with just like both of them
like laughing?
Just they laugh and they hug each other like, oh boy, aren't we a couple of silly billies? A couple of silly billies, Billy Friedkin and
Billy Blatty.
Billy Blatty, yeah. Oh my God. But yeah. So yeah, she checks herself in the mirror, and then they rejoin the party, which is still going on.
Mm-hmm.
Burke is not the life of the party. He is he's not life related in any way. I'm not spoiling anything.
Oh no,
I'll never tell.
But it's like the after party almost, right? Like it's a much more scaled down version, and I think we're going to assume that part of this smaller group now is the senator and his wife, which would mean that not only are these the people who are the coolest people to stay this long at the party, but they're also the most important, powerful people who came to the party.
Yes, yeah.
The astronaut, the Jesuit dean, the senator, and his wife.
Right.
Oh, and the famous psychic.
Yes, Mary Jo Perrin, famous psychic. You were listening, everybody, and I was just thinking, like, what is it? Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy.
Right.
The astronaut, the Jesuit, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. Right. That's what it would be. This would be some Victorian romance. It's like the astronaut, the Jesuit,
right.
The senator's wife,
on the edge of the beyond.
Yes. Why do you like going into space, Heathcliff? Because you're not there.
Oh,
Jesus! Wow.
Jeez.
God, Heathcliff. Yeah, and it seems like our dear Father Dyer is leading us in some old empty orchestra, also known as karaoke. Actually, I looked it up, and apparently karaoke was just becoming a thing over in Japan at this time, like the little karaoke machines that you could get. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, which now okay, this is a really interesting scene. I don't really feel like we do this kind of thing anymore. I guess Karaoke Machine really would be the modern equivalent. But Keenan, these people are our age.
Right.
At least Chris is our age, right? Like, what kind of stuff do people our age do at parties?
Well, there are karaoke games on the Xbox. People still do that.
See, that's immediately what I went to. It's like people our age, we still play like video games and stuff like that, right? Like we play the Wii, we play the Xbox.
I've been at real parties where the Just Dance comes out, or the Xbox karaoke, I forget what they call it there, comes out. But that still really happens. But also, I'm friends with film people, which are like theater people, just more awkward.
It's a little bit more intimate, right? Because
they
the
have
close-ups.
fewer friends. Oh. Right.
Wow, I went one way and you went another way.
Right.
I was making a pun on the camera.
On the camera, yeah. That is really interesting, though. These are people our age. People our age nowadays can't afford pianos. No, that's a terrible luxury, right?
Yeah. But then again, this is Chris MacNeil, I guess. But yeah, like,
this question of like, what do people do at parties? I mean, I was once with some friends in high school, and we were hanging out at the McDonald's inside the Walmart across the street from our high school. Okay. And there was one of our friends who had not been out with us much, and we liked him from school. We invited him out, and he's just sitting at the head of this McDonald's inside of a Walmart table while we're just all laughing and ribbing each other and joking and saying whatever and making fun of teachers. And then there's a lull in the conversation, and he says, "Is this all that hanging out is?"
And he's at the table like he called you all to a board meeting about hanging out. It's like gentlemen, we need to reevaluate.
Answers. Yeah, on my desk by the morning. What is this hanging out?
I want these forms in triplicate. I want. Wow. Yeah. Like, I guess that speaks to the culture, right? I guess how you hang out and what you do and what kind of parties you go to, like, all kind of depend on what's socially acceptable. And then, like, also, I guess, like, even more than what's socially acceptable, like what you and your group of friends deem as like a cool, fun thing to do. Right. Yeah. So
that's a priest playing the piano. That's what's fun here.
That is, yeah. He is a laugh riot. This guy. But yeah, Keenan, like I saw this in middle school, and I'm sure I thought, oh, this is an old people party. They're doing old people stuff. This is what old people do at a party. But now I'm like Dyer's age, Chris's age. Right. Actually, in the book, it says Chris is 32. So I'm older than Chris now. So I'm looking at this party in 1973, and maybe it's because Chris is like the Chris MacNeil, and this is a super classy party. We got senators, we got astronauts, we got psychics. Oh my. And yeah, this is a small party, very, very intimate, but I just can't help but feel it's also timeless. Did you get that feeling? Like, we're talking about timelessness in the Iraq scenes, but this is also a little like, it doesn't seem connected to the 1970s, Like, Keenan, if I told you, hey, we're having a 70s themed party, this isn't what we would think of, right?
Right, exactly. I think that's completely true. So this is the early 70s. So but this doesn't even look like a 60s party, what we would think about, right? But yeah, we have this tendency to think that everybody was always in the new, in the now, right?
Right.
But these people would think that what was cool and what was now, as represented by the actors who were playing the extras in Chris's movie, right? That's the new and now, and yeah, Chris's crowd is a little bit more conservative, even though she's an actor. Right. We see that in that scene where she's like, I don't understand what's going on in this. Like, I can't even make heads or tails of this movie, right? Where we have these radical young people. Yeah. But also there's a little bit of like, yes, they're a little bit old, but like, okay, what is class to them? Sorry. So classiness is sort of dictated by what, from the 50s or maybe even earlier than that?
Yeah.
Like, what is class to us now? It wouldn't be, I don't even know who's hip right now. I don't know. Oh geez, Tekashi 6ix9ine and Camila Cabello. Like is that's not like when we're thinking about like, I want to dress up and be at a classy adult party.
Yeah. We're not the people, folks. We're not the people to ask about like, What's classy and cool?
Right.
Do not come to us for that.
Lyle Crocodile. That's what the kids want.
Star, stage and screen. Yeah.
But yeah, like there's a little bit of like what we think of as being classy or what we think about being sophisticated as dictated by a previous generation, right? Of the last generation.
Yeah. Like, I feel like the only time that I would be that dressed up to go to a party would be like if it was like a costume. like I'd be pretending to have the party that Chris is actually having,
right.
You know, like I'd get in a nice suit, like not a Halloween costume, but I would dress up like, oh, this is like a very classy party, you know, but I'm kind of like doing it tongue in cheek, like winking. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to have like hors d'oeuvres and somebody's going to play the piano and, you know,
right. Like I'm Daddy Warbucks, but I have hair, right? I'm really fancy. I don't want to necessarily spoiler another movie that people haven't signed up to get spoiled, but in the end of Marriage Story with Adam Driver, he plays a theater director. And he is at a piano bar at the end with his friends, and he ends up singing a song there on the piano. So like it comes up, and he like, and so he does this basic sort of karaoke thing, and he does it from he's reciting all of the parts in it. So even though it's mostly the main character singing, there's some asides from the rest of the cast in this original cast recording. So he does all of it, which is very theater person type of thing. He's like talking to himself and calling and responding himself. Yeah. So I mean, I think that some people still do this, and I hope there are still bars like that in New York.
Yeah.
After the pandemic, where there's just an open piano, and if you get drunk and mad enough, you can go up and sing a song for everybody, and be like, hey, everybody, listen. Well, hold on, let me do the Adam Driver. Like, hey, everybody, listen to me.
That was a very good Adam Driver.
Thank you. I've been working on my Adam Driver. I have to usually think of Marriage Story specifically, where he says, "Don't you ever talk about my father like that again." Yeah, because he's doing a voice that's not his normal voice as Kylo Ren. That's not how he speaks, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So I think
Kylo Ren he's doing a voice in Marriage Story, and his real voice is
No. Marriage Story is his real voice, and then he's Kylo Ren.
He's Kylo Ren. Okay,
all right. Yeah, that's his putting on.
Gotcha. I would have been surprised if it were the other way around.
No, he's a huge, tall man, and he talks a little bit like Kermit the Frog, not all the way,
gotcha.
But a little bit.
We love you, Adam Driver.
Oh, love him. But yeah, I think like theater people do when there's a piano around, you can't get their hands off.
No. Same with like certain types of people in a guitar. They're like, oh,
right. And I guess that's an indication of who Father Dyer is. You know, so we said that that in real life. Oh God, what the hell is his actor's name?
Father O'Malley.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we said that in real life, Father O'Malley was basically a theater teacher at the school that he taught at.
Yes.
Right. So he had put on plays and things like that. So that is also working into this character here, but we don't necessarily know that before we see this shot of Father Dyer at the piano.
And I want to speak to what he is playing here, just to go back a bit to like the timelessness of this scene right here. This song that he's playing came out in 1926. This is Down on 3rd and 33rd, or Toidy-Toid, as it's more popularly sung, and as they're singing here in the movie. And it's just this like really folksy Archie Bunker, All in the Family, like sing along if you know the words, you know, like what you'd sing like when you're drunk in a bar in the 1920s or 30s, right? And I was like, who chose this song? It's got to be Father Dyer. He's the one at the piano, but like in the book.
And he's also correcting people and making sure they say Toidy-Toid.
Yeah, you got to say Toidy-Toid. That's the whole thing, right? Don't you come in here with 33rd, you asshole.
Oh, geez, these meatheads with their 33rd. Oh, it's Toidy-Toid.
It's Toidy-Toid.
You'll recognize this country no more.
Yeah. My favorite thing, there was a thing he was like, I forget the exact context of it, but like someone was trying to defend him, saying like, it's like, oh, Your Honor, Archie Bunker was under duress, and he said he was like, yeah, I didn't even know I was under the dress. Oh, Archie Bunker,
everyone's favorite bigot,
everyone's favorite, and I just saw the other day on TikTok, it popped up. It was like one of these blasts from the past. He did a whole PSA, Carol O'Connor, on he's like. Talking in his normal voice, not his Archie Bunker voice, and just talking, yeah, right. Which is like guys, Peter Griffin is Archie Bunker. That's but he said it's like basically he was like, hey guys, like we have a lot of laughs on the show, and Archie Bunker's a real funny guy, but he's actually not. He's a racist, and like you shouldn't be like Archie Bunker. And I just thought, like, because I think that was the thing, right? Like people almost missed the point of that show where like they loved Archie.
Some of them did, yeah. So it got both audiences at once. Number one show in America, because some people were like, "Oh, you're supposed to make fun of this character. You're supposed to laugh at him," and then other people were like, "Oh, he's saying the things we don't get to say."
Yeah.
But similar to say like Eric Cartman, which never was the kind of hit that like All in the Family was, because South Park is on cable and aimed at basically teenage boys, right? But yeah, there's I think, I don't know what number, but let's give it the benefit of the doubt. Say half the audience that watches South Park is like, Cartman is terrible, and we're making fun of Cartman, and when he says things that are awful, that's because he's terrible. And other ones like, ha ha ha, ha, and they learn new slurs basically that they didn't know before. Yeah, because of Cartman.
Would you say the same thing about Homer Simpson, do you think?
I don't know. I think that some things that Homer says are clearly you're supposed to know that he's wrong, but other things like it's the American way to get drunk and to do a half-assed job. I think some people take that as a call to arms. Yeah. To alcohol, the solution and cause of all of life's problems. Yeah.
It doesn't help that, like every now and then he has like little nuggets of wisdom, and we're like, oh, that's actually, it's like, that's very, even if he's not aware of it.
Right. I think, Cartman is beyond the pale, because he is an overtly racist, not well-meaning character.
Right. Yeah.
As Archie Bunker is not well-meaning either, but yeah, people still like him. He's a likable person it's a complicated
And we
question.
talked about like Peter Griffin as well, is like, who, kind of like borrows his voice from Carol O'Connor's character, right?
He's well-meaning at least.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, so they're singing this like down on 3rd and 33rd. Actually, in the book, Father Dyer, he says, does anybody else know the words to I Bet You're Sorry Now, Tokyo Rose? Which is not even in the movie, but I did a whole research thing on Tokyo Rose because I didn't know about it. And that's one change that I'm glad Friedkin made to the script. Tokyo Rose or Eva Toguri, hers is a fascinating story, which I highly recommend you go and check out. I'm not going to dive into it here because it like in the book, it's like just a throwaway line. Like you hear it in the background as Father Dyer is trying to figure out the next song, and it's not even in the movie. So,
right.
But
in the script, it says that song, Tokyo Rose. Yeah. But they don't end up singing it, right?
But yeah, so she's a really, really interesting person, Eva, or maybe Iva Toguri.
Well, there are actually a couple of different Tokyo Roses. So they would all broadcast as Tokyo Rose, as the character. But at the time, so a lot of that history, right, it has to be found out later. Right. Yeah, because it was a program by the Japanese, and so we didn't get insight into that till later.
Yeah. But her specifically, like she was Miss Toguri, she was like a Japanese American who was like stuck over there.
Oh yes, you're right. That's the worst of them. That is a really, really bad one. Yeah, she's stuck over there and gets pretty much coerced into being Tokyo Rose against her will.
Right. Yeah. But like as the story goes, she kind of like makes a farce of it, right? Kind of uses it to kind of like entertain the troops, right? But yeah, no, definitely check out like her or anybody else, involved in like the Tokyo Rose stories. Eva Toguri or Iva Toguri, Toguri. Yeah, check them out. The song is horrible. Don't look it up. It's racist and stupid and just, I guess, indicative of like where our minds were in the 70s about Japanese people, unfortunately. But like the story of the person is really interesting. And if you like history, you should check it out. But yeah, Father Dyer doesn't say that in this movie.
Good for you, Father Dyer.
Yeah, good job, Father Dyer. Instead, he's singing this lovely little ditty down on 3rd and 33rd. So yeah, Keenan, I also did research on this song, and I think we might have another case of the Carmen Coincidence.
I don't know. I didn't look up the words to this one.
Yeah, so let's have a listen. So the first verse that they're doing, this is the one that they're doing in the movie, right? It's pretty, pretty tame. It's down on the east side. Down on the east side. On the east side. That's my home, sweet home. Some people think it's the home of black eyes, just because guys don't wear collars and ties. That's all the bunk. They say that in fun. Real east side folks is the best folks what come. They give you their shoit. only they ain't got none down on Toidy-Toid and Toid, right? Now, the second verse is all about pianos, Keenan. Folks buy pianos for $1 down, then wait with sticks for the guy to come round. God help collectors when they come to call. 3 flights of stairs is a hell of a fall.
Oh, jeez.
Especially with hard marble floors in the hall, down on Toidy-Toid and Toid. So, talking about falling down a flight of stairs, I don't know.
Getting cross with the guys who bought the piano.
Yeah. And then the last verse, I don't know if this has anything to do with anything, but down on the east side of Toidy-Toid and Toid, that's my home sweet home. When a guy dies, it's the best time of all. Oh, maybe it does.
Ooh.
We go on out and we hire a hall. We gets a bathtub and fills it with gin, pick up the corpse and we throw the stiff in. Dead or alive, you should see that guy grin down on Toidy-Toid and Toid.
Oh, wow.
What
Father
the hell
Dyer.
are you singing, Father Dyer? Sheesh.
That's great. That's great. That's a good find, Lester. I love it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know any other reason that they would use this song other than it sounds like a folksy party song that Archie and Edith Bunker would sing if they were here. Archie would also sing Tokyo Rose song, probably, to be honest. But yeah, okay, we talked about Carol O'Connor. In any case, we then get this wonderful bit of characterization with Father Dyer here talking about his idea of heaven. Now, Keenan, I'm learning about this as we go. I'm a little ashamed to say that I didn't really know about it until we started doing the show. I didn't pick up the fact that Burke might be a queer-coded character, for example. Is this another example right here with Father Dyer?
I think it is completely.
Okay.
I'm glad that you brought it up, so it's not just me foisting that gay agenda on the film and our audience. So yes, you think that Father Dyer might be gay?
Possibly.
Yeah. What is? I'll put you on the spot.
Oh boy.
What brings you to that conclusion? I agree with you completely.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to say this made me think that. Oh, damn it. You got me on the spot, Keenan. Well, no, just to go back to what you were saying about shortcuts and maybe like stereotypes and little like visual or audio cues that we put onto a character to say that they're gay without saying outright that they're gay.
Right.
And this little kind of like bit of action that he did when, he's talking about his idea of heaven, and just like his voice and his tone and his gesture seemed to me, it's like, oh, that would be like, would this be another example of like putting that stereotype on just to kind of like as a shorthand of saying that Father Dyer might be gay. Yeah,
I think completely. So he's a little bit more exaggerated in his hand movements, in his voice, and then as you point out, right, he's the one doing this show tune essentially, right? The line between what's a show tune and what is popular music from the 1920s is very blurry because a lot of what was on Broadway was coming from Tin Pan Alley, which is the popular music scene.
Right.
So there weren't shows in the same way as like Showboat, which is the first really big Broadway show where they're writing songs specifically for the movie or for the play that are about the characters. So oftentimes it was taking popular songs, buying the sheet music, and putting them into Broadway shows. So he's essentially singing a show tune, right?
Okay.
It's this character based show tune with a voice and everything.
Yeah.
So I mean, these are the kind of stereotypes we have, right? And then when we start to maybe think backwards, we've only known him for about 2 minutes now,
right?
His watch that we see when he's sitting with Chris at the table is a little bit flashier than the other men's watches. It's bright gold, and he sort of has his wrist available. And then when we think about like his conversation with the astronaut, not that he's hitting on the astronaut or anything like that, but the astronaut is going to light Father Dyer's cigarette for him, as Father Dyer's holding it out for him. And these are just, again, as you were pointing out, these are stereotypes, but that's how you can communicate to people without having the character say out loud that they might be queer.
Right. Interesting. Right. Oh, thank you.
I completely agree with you. And then, I don't know anything about the real Father O'Malley. And as far as we can tell, he's just playing a version of himself. And I don't mean to say that to be like demeaning, like he's not really acting, because this is like a real 3-dimensional character.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of the other priests, like Father Bellingham, are playing not again, I don't want to say one note, but they don't have arcs necessarily.
Right. Oh,
right?
Birmingham, you mean, right?
Father Birmingham. Mm-hmm. It's not that they don't have, if they're not acting, or they're not interesting. I don't want to say that they're one note, but they don't have arcs, right? We don't see them at their high moment and their low moment and things like that. Right. The way that we do with Father Dyer.
Yeah, Dyer definitely has like some high moments and some low moments. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to lose his best friend. These are gigantic things. So I don't want to say that he's just being himself, but that's so far our indication is that that William Peter Blatty saw Father Dyer as being a good match for this character that he wrote.
Right.
As what do you say? He's the quippy flip character.
Oh, he said it was a cutesy flip.
Flip, yeah. That he saw Father O'Malley as Father Dyer, this cutesy flip character.
Father cutesy flip, as he said it, yeah.
Right, and put him in there. So so I don't want to. I'm just hesitating a little bit more than I normally would, because Jack McGowan as a seasoned actor would know what he was doing. He could play straight characters and he could play gay characters.
Right.
So I don't want to guess at the real life orientation or mannerisms of the real Father O'Malley.
Right, yeah.
Right. And I think Father Dyer is gay.
Yeah, it was Father Dyer as opposed to like it separate from Father O'Malley.
Yes.
Yeah. As far as Father O'Malley, like I don't know a whole lot other than like he wrote a lot of books and he directed a lot of plays, and that's kind of like where that's kind of like what I could find. So
right.
Yeah,
I think engaging in that stereotype analysis is how you look at coded queer characters in literature. Like that does not help you at all in real life. Right, so to think about, he's a priest, so he never got married in the 70s, and he went into the priesthood, and he was doing theater work. Like that's actually not helpful at all.
Right. So just to be clear, folks, like we're analyzing what we think the film is trying to tell us, not like like don't do this in real life. Like
right. Exactly.
Yeah. And I like his idea. He says, he says, my idea of heaven is a solid white nightclub with me as the headliner for all eternity, and they love me. And it's really sweet, and everyone laughs. And I also like the fact that it's a priest talking about a non-traditional subjective view of heaven, which is sort of like the default for all of us, right? Like we all imagine that heaven is filled with like stuff that we like, right? Which actually... Okay, fun little thought experiment, Keenan. I know you don't necessarily believe in heaven, but if there was one, what would it be for you?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure, because I do let myself fantasize about what if we won the lottery, and so if money was no option. So this might seem a little silly, but I guess this is the first thing that comes to mind because it's not something we could have on Earth. But I have 4 cats, and I have too many cats, and I still look for new cats. I'm like, oh, look at this one. I have to say no. So what about some kind of ever-expanding infinite house, and each cat gets their own room, and there's an infinite amount of cats, and you can go into each room, and it's their own room based on their own little personality. And here's the key part about it is that you can leave that cat and leave them behind and come back later. They won't follow you into the next room.
Right. Yeah, they have their own little like independent rooms. I love that.
Right, exactly.
Keenan, what's wrong with that? I love that.
Well, because I think about it's not about doing any good. Or
who cares? It's your heaven.
It's not with my family or my loved ones. It's with cats.
You weren't including them. Oh,
I don't know where they are. They're around, I suppose. And I guess you're in there somewhere, Lester, and our fans of them.
Well, thank you for inviting me to your heaven.
Yeah, but I do fantasize about what if we had all the money all of a sudden, infinite amount of money. And I do think a lot about building a perfect film school here in Las Vegas, which I think we have a pretty good one with UNLV Film. I think it's the best undergrad film program in the country. But what if we had the money for a real theater? What if we had money for our own parking spaces?
Oh my God.
And so what about you?
Oh, well, for me, I think it would be very similar to Father Dyer's idea of heaven. It'd be like I'm a big actor. I'm a performer. I'm doing sold out shows every night. I also do stand up. And then during the day, I just sit in a snowy little cabin in the woods and I write. And you and I are still doing the Exorcist Minute, Keenan. Except our guests are William Peter Blatty and Max von Sydow, and it's like the highest rated podcast ever. Basically, just stuff that I want to do right now, right? Stuff that I want right now, which I guess is how this experiment always goes, right? Like,
whatever you don't have is...
whatever you don't have, whatever you want. If I really, really had to think about it, I'd say it's probably a little bit deeper. It's like stuff that I don't even realize is missing, like... this is really blasphemous. So, some folks might want to cover their ears, but you know how when you go and you get a foot massage, and they start working the muscles and the tendons in your feet, and that's when you realize how much pain your feet were in, only when they start taking the pain away, like, oh, I didn't realize how sore my feet were because it's this like constant dull ache, right? Or you sink into a warm bath or a hot tub and you're like, oh, my muscles were so tense and I didn't even realize it. I think heaven would be like that, but for my soul. I think I'd be like, wow, all this baggage, all this pain, all these worries, all this guilt, all this like emotional, psychological debris. I had no idea, right? It'd be like a detoxing, right? I feel like society does a really good job of shaming you into a shape.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't feel too much love. Don't feel too much empathy. Don't feel too much happiness. Dwell on the past. Worry about the future. And feel like I feel like we get little tastes of heaven in our lives, like being with someone, holding your child for the first time, just being surprised by a moment of clarity and peace or purpose. I think these little glimpses that we get every now and then, like these are little glimpses of like what it feels like all the time. And so I think naturally when we're constructing our version of heaven, we just fill it with all the, the things that give us those feelings, right?
Oh, yeah. So two things. I saw some New Year's piece of advice. Happy 2023 from the past, if you're listening to us in the future. Yeah. One said that when you're experiencing one of those moments, to say out loud, I'm so happy right now. Oh. And that would like trick you into cataloging it. That there was this moment. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't put into practice. And so, it's just bumper sticker stuff, but it might actually work for people. I thought that was really interesting. Mm-hmm. And then this idea of like a personal heaven. So I think I like that you're saying like Father Dyer, it feels a little, maybe not sacrilegious, but a little bit like...
it's not like the usual thing that you would expect a priest to say.
Yeah, he's being a little unorthodox, right? Yeah. By saying this personal idea of heaven. So it's one of my pet peeves is what people like to make fun of about the LDS idea of heaven. Do you know the LDS idea of heaven?
Oh, is this the isn't it that like there are different levels of heaven, and like the ultimate, the highest level is like you become God of your own universe, or?
Yeah, well, that's actually closer to what it really is. And so like what people like to make fun of. So we have a lot of LDS people in Las Vegas, and I grew up with some of my very best friends, Latter-day Saints, so Mormons. Right. But they make fun and say like, oh, so when you die, you get your own planet. That's what people say when they make fun of it, which is, if you're taking things a little bit out of context and literal, right? Yeah, you go and you get to have whatever you want in your own little universe. But that's no sillier, is what I mean, than the idea of a personalized heaven. Right. So on your little planet, there's people are making fun of it. Like on your little planet, what your grandmother's there, and you get to be whatever age you thought you were the best at, and you're 35, and your grandmother is 65, even though she died when she was in her 80s, right? And all your dogs and cats are there, and you and your child at home, but it also has an elevator. Like how stupid it is that you would have your own planet. But that's what a personalized view of heaven is, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That you get that it defies logic, it defies the rules of things. You are like in a dream. You are 20 years old and 70 years old all at once, right? Yeah. And just because you have your grandmother in your personal heaven doesn't mean that she doesn't have her own personal heaven.
Right.
Which is, again, illogical, but of course it is, because we're talking about heaven, right? So yeah, you exist at other people's heavens, and you exist in your own heaven simultaneously. Yeah.
And it is, you do bring up this this very good point about, it's like, yeah, who are we? Who are any of us to say like, one religion's idea of heaven is silly or absurd? I mean, just like, look at your own religion. I mean, like, I'm looking
living
at mine,
on a cloud. Like, you go to a cloud, and the first pope is there, and he reads from a giant book in front of a big gate made of pearls. It's also golden, and he reads through all your good and bad deeds. Yeah, and you're first in line, and whatever. Like that's just as silly as the other one, or just as beautiful. Let me just say, it's just as beautiful as the other one.
Right, just as beautiful, just as silly, just as like we're talking about like Christian idea of heaven, or Muslim idea of heaven, or like any other religion's like idea of what happens after we die. All of them are equally, absurd and illogical, and all of them are equally beautiful. So, like, yeah, like just we all got to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves. I Okay. That actually made me remember. So, talking about I remember my mom describing, heaven. It's like, you can do, anything you want up in heaven.
Mhm.
And it was like Halloween, and I was really into dressing like the devil. And so naturally, I think I might have even been in my devil costume when I asked this question, because Keenan, that like Halloween was like 365 for me.
Right.
But yeah, so it's like, oh, can I wear my devil costume up in heaven? And she kind of looked, she was like, like, poor mom. It's like, how do you pose a question like that? Like,
right.
Yeah.
That's great.
I love my devil costume. Will God let me wear that up in heaven? Oh, my gosh.
I'm sure that happens when parents are teaching their kids about heaven. Like, well, can I have unlimited screen time on my Switch? Like, well, yes, it's only when you're dead.
Yeah.
Not right now. Put it away.
Yes, you'll have that when you're in heaven. So turn off the phone now. Save it for heaven. I've been told it's like, oh yes, like you could have those things, but you won't want them. You'll be like an evolved being, and those things will not be as pleasurable to you, right? So
that's a very Buddhist version of right? Of what Christian heaven is like. Yeah.
But that made me think, it was like, okay, like I'm filling my heaven with all of these like material things that I really, really want, but like, will those things not be as pleasurable as like I don't know what like complete raw unfiltered love and compassion feels like. Like, it's like we get tastes of that as human beings. Like what does that feel like all the time? Like compared to that, a solid white nightclub might not be as exciting.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you need unlimited beef jerky at the right hand of the Father?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And what if you prefer Slim Jims?
They're there too. Yeah.
There we go. That I pose to you, religious people.
Yeah, checkmate, religious people.
Check and mate. If God truly is real, can he make a Slim Jim so big? Yeah. So yeah, folks, as they're singing this very pleasant song, the camera moves out. It moves back. Keenan, is this a dolly shot or a zoom?
Well, this is actually, a real moving shot. So not a zoom, it's a dolly, or it's on track. So yeah, it's an actual moving shot. And okay. I'm glad that you were asking about that. So you noticed when we're moving back, but you didn't necessarily notice that we've been in the same shot since Sharon and Chris closed the door.
What?
And we've been in one long, I timed it, 50-second shot. That works.
That's like almost all of our minute.
That's almost all of our minute. So when they close the door behind Burke and they have that conversation, the camera is moving with them through the hall, and it moves back for them. And then it goes into this little side room with the piano and sees all these people, and it will move to follow Chris there. And then it only is when it starts to move out that you notice it, right?
Oh my God.
And it cuts when we cut to Reagan's face. So that brings up this idea of motivated camera movement. Have you heard that?
I've heard it, but I don't know what it means.
Okay, yeah. So basically, if a camera movement is matching a movement in the frame, it's said to be motivated. So say I throw a ball and the camera moves to follow where the ball is. You as the audience member don't notice the camera moving. You just notice that you get to keep watching the ball.
Okay.
Right. So it helps the camera move feel more invisible. Because basically you're so here when we have Chris and Sharon in the hall and the camera is following them, we don't notice the camera. We're just listening to what Chris and Sharon want to say. And we're getting visually exactly what we want to see when we want to see it.
I see.
So imagine instead, say, if the camera were staying out in the hall and Chris and Sharon leave and it stays in the hall and we're not seeing Chris and Sharon as they're talking, we would notice that as a camera staying there, right?
Right.
Yeah, we go, oh, this isn't what I think I should be watching. I want to see Chris and Sharon, right? Yeah. So the entire time we're following Chris and Sharon move, and the camera is doing very complicated movements. Again, it's a 50-second camera move.
Yeah.
And we have 10 actors dealing with their choreography.
Right.
The biggest people who are moving are Chris and Sharon, and then we're also dealing with the astronaut and Reagan.
Right.
And there's the other 6 people who are basically standing still. So if it's so the first part of it is motivated because we're just following Chris. And then the second part of it, when it starts to move and there's not something in the frame that we're matching that movement to, right? It's not that Chris is now moving towards the door and the camera's moving with her. Everyone is stationary and the camera starts to move. We go, what's this about? Like, why is the camera moving? It's not showing me something I want to see. It's forcing me to see things it wants me to see.
Interesting. So it's almost like the camera. So when we were following the characters, we didn't necessarily think of the camera as another character.
Right.
Only when the camera is like backing away from this scene, we're like, hey, camera, no, get back there.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Yeah, it seems like it has a mind of its own, right?
Yeah.
In this one, so that's unmotivated camera movement. It's not, the movement isn't motivated by something in the frame. And again, like, I don't like that term because always feels like it's bad.
Right.
So we talk to film students like, oh, I don't want to have unmotivated camera movement. Well, no. It's actually just not matching.
Oh,
right?
What's wrong there, little camera?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think I really want to move today.
No, you got to get motivated, little camera.
I'm just a bad camera.
No.
I'd rather eat a bunch of ice cream.
And we just got like a big fat camera.
Oh. But yeah, so it's not good or bad. So here we have where unmotivated camera movement is really effective because the camera starts to move back. We're like, oh, what's this about now? What's going on? Right. And instead of like seeing this group of people singing and Father Dyer explaining all of this, and we're like, oh, we're part of this, we start to become more objective about it, right? We're like, oh, now we're like looking at these people like a scientist or something, or a demon, right? We're like, oh, look, we're observing them now as opposed to being part of the group.
Interesting. Oh, folks, I am learning. I'm learning so much.
Hey.
Yeah. And so, the camera reveals, as Father Dyer points out, that we have a guest. We then cut to Reagan for what seems like a really long time. I timed it again, but it doesn't, it's objectively not long, but it seems really, really long before she speaks. And she says, "You're going to die up there." Which I did not understand when I was little. Keenan, did you understand this line the first time?
Oh, I think so. So what did you think?
I think it was because I hadn't caught the hints in the previous conversation that this guy was an astronaut.
Oh, right, because you don't have that information about the Gemini and
right. Yeah. So I'm sure that I don't even remember this guy, let alone the fact that he's the astronaut. I also thought she was speaking to everybody at the party.
Oh yeah,
because it's like it's the back of her head, and then like after we pull out completely, it's the back of her head, and then it closes up on her. It cuts to her face, and like to me, it just looked like she was looking at everybody at that party. And because I knew this movie was called The Exorcist, and I knew she's supposed to be the devil, I was like, up there? What is that? Like, does she mean heaven?
Oh yeah, you're gonna die up in heaven. Yeah.
I was like, as a kid, it didn't even register that she was talking to the astronaut and talking about like the sky or space.
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where my mind went.
Gotcha. Yeah. So this shot stays. It pulls out, and we start to observe the party like we're an outsider. It feels a little bit anticipatory, which sometimes people say is a negative, but it leaves some room for Reagan, if you will.
Yeah.
Then Reagan comes in exactly where she should be, in the middle of the frame now, and our astronaut turns around and looks at her. So that's how I think we're supposed to know that, oh, she's talking to the astronaut specifically.
Gotcha.
So he looks around and starts to smile, and then we cut to Reagan. We're not sure where she's looking. It doesn't necessarily look like if she were potentially more to the right of the frame, and it would look like she's looking more left, maybe that would clue us in.
Right.
But yeah, it's sort of, I suppose, ambiguous here. It says you're going to die up there. Yeah. And then I like that we get a shot of the astronaut in close up.
Right.
Right. And then it cuts to the assembled shot of oh, no, it doesn't. It cuts to her peeing. Yeah. Of course. And then we get the shot of everyone at the piano, and they're just, like, what do you think of that? They're sort of like,
let me see.
Like, sorry, I guess I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but
no, that's okay. I'm gonna this goes into what I was saying. I'm gonna play it right here. Let's see. Yeah. So I'm looking at. So in the back we got the AD, and we got. I'm assuming that's the senator.
Let's call him the senator, and the senator's wife on the left. Yeah.
Yeah. Senator and the wife. And like we got some disgusted looks. But it almost looks like the senator's wife, like she's got like a weird little smirk or something. Like,
that's what I like about these group shots where these characters are taken seriously as characters. So again, these actors don't have lines, right?
Right.
Who we know now as Mary Jo, and then if this is the senator and his wife or whoever, right? Yeah. They don't have lines in the entire movie, but potentially by having them have lines that have been cut out and treating them, Friedkin would have been working with them as actors, not as background actors, which is a different relationship.
Yes.
and then to trust them. So you're in this 5-shot of these actors, and they have a wide range, right? So it doesn't feel like Friedkin was like, okay, and now we're all disgusted, right? It's like right, exactly. Like everyone has their own sort of reaction to it, and Dyer is more like looking in shock, right? There's some disgust. There's a bit of sympathy for it. Like,
like if we go from right to left, let's start at the senator, right?
Yeah.
The senator seems like he's like the most, or the least empathetic. Like he's literally just like grossed out. He's like, ugh, right? Yeah, right. The AD looks like he's concerned because he knows Chris, he knows Reagan,
right?
And he's like, oh my God, what's like, oh, like, honey, like what's wrong,
right?
Mary Jo has this interesting expression. Like if we talk about her interaction with Reagan before, where she kind of like sensed something in her from the book, like it looks like on her face right now, she's kind of got this look like, oh, like confirming like what she was like fearing. It's like, oh, here we go. This is like, I was right. Like, oh no, and we get the senator's wife, and she just kind of like, I don't know if it's like a reaction to being uncomfortable, but this weird smirk, like, huh, like, yeah. Like,
and then she sort of starts to hide her face as if she'd be caught, having a human reaction, which is like, oh, that's weird and funny.
Yeah. And people, people laugh when they're uncomfortable, and they smirk and they smile when they're uncomfortable. So like, I'm not saying she's like this heartless, like person. But it is really cool that her reaction is so and everybody's reactions are so different.
Yeah. And then staying with her. So she has this sort of, she's been singing and she has her hand on her hip, and she takes her hand off, and then she kind of smirks or has whatever reaction it is. And then she's the one who starts to look at the others to see if they noticed what she had done. Like, oh God, I had this reaction.
Yeah.
And she sort of looks over at them. Right.
Yeah. And I like Father Dyer's also because you can kind of see the progress, that like the progression of his, like he turns around, he's like, oh, what's going on here, and and then like when his mouth closes, you're like, he's like, okay, like he understands what's going on now, and he seems like a little bit like, oh dear, this is serious.
Well, he had just said this thing, right? He just said, and here we have our little guest here, right?
Oh no, he must feel bad because he put her on the spot.
Right.
Oh no.
Right. That wouldn't happen in his white nightclub. Yeah.
No.
And then just to be sure, so some people at home might not know this, but like when I'm talking about the difference between an actor and a background actor or an extra, on a professional Hollywood union run movie, the director is not allowed to talk to the background actors. Right. So that's done with through the AD team. Usually the second AD is the person who, or the second or the third AD will be the people who are talking to the extras. Right. So like here, these are actors. They've had conversations with the director, even if we're just, even if we aren't sure that because we don't have that documented, like we see that they have had names in the script. So they are almost certainly hired and had conversations with William Friedkin.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And then like just to linger on these expressions, we get like the bottom half of Sharon's face in the next cut, so we can't see, but we do see that she seems like concerned for like a person who like she knows and loves. And then Ellen Burstyn's face is like, is the topper there.
What I love about this performance by Ellen Burstyn is that it is counter to what we are thinking. I don't know if I could speak for everybody, but we're like, oh, it's disgusting, it's embarrassing. Right. We cut to her, and she's genuinely concerned, and she's sorry for Reagan. Right. I think, gosh, as much as I've seen the movie, I think when I was rewatching it to get ready for the show, I was still like, oh, if I'm retelling the story in my head, Reagan comes and pees, and Chris is embarrassed.
Right.
But the first thing that happens is that Chris is worried about her daughter.
There is a look of genuine concern on her face, to the point where like, the last word of this minute, Reagan, is said with such, I don't know the word for it, but like such fear for her daughter's well-being.
Right.
Like something like it, like the carpet doesn't even matter.
Right.
It's like, what is happening with my daughter?
Right. And then she will, in our next minute, when we're talking about that, she does have a little bit of, apologizing to people for being embarrassed, but that's not the first thing that she cares about at all.
No. And plus, oh boy, again, with this movie being like a unique take on the devil, it doesn't seem like something a devil would say, right? Like, you're going to die up there, right? Like, you'd think he'd be like, your soul is in danger, or your soul is mine, or you're going to rot down there in hell, filthy mortal, something like devilish. And I like this, again, like Captain Howdy coming out swinging with this like unique, creepy take on what a demon says and does, right? He doesn't seem concerned about souls. A lot of times he talks about death. It's weird. And I feel like we're going to get into this a little bit more later, but death, it seems to be more of a looming presence than even hell itself here, right?
Right. No, that's really interesting, right? Like, stop doing Heath Ledger's Joker. Do your own Joker, guys.
Right.
Let your own Joker go.
Or stop doing Mark Hamill's Joker, please. Sheesh.
Right. So with this line, you're going to die up there, that leads us into this character of the astronaut who we teased earlier as being part of the extended Blatty universe, the Blatty-verse, if you will.
The Blatty-verse. I love it.
So Blatty had done a lot of writing before The Exorcist, and one of the things that he had written was a novel called Twinkle, Twinkle, Killer Kane.
Yes.
And he actually wanted Friedkin to direct Twinkle, Twinkle, Killer Kane. But it didn't quite work out. The movie didn't go forward. Suddenly, after The Exorcist comes out, the book and the movie, he could do whatever he wants. Right. And what he wants to do is to turn Twinkle, Twinkle, Killer Kane into a film for real. And he rewrites it and rewrites a screenplay that becomes a movie called The Ninth Configuration.
Oh.
Yeah. And I told myself at our Christmas episode, our bonus episode, that I needed to watch The Ninth Configuration because I've been meaning to. You know, it's a famous movie that I hadn't seen. We got to do it before we get to this astronaut. So what's the connection there? Well, again, this book that he had written, Twinkle, Twinkle, Killer Kane, was written before The Exorcist came out. Okay, so before he'd written The Exorcist. And it is a very strange story. You haven't seen this movie or read this book, right?
I haven't, no. Okay. Keenan did his homework, guys. I saw one snippet of it on YouTube, and I'll talk about that one later.
Okay, great. Yeah, so it is partially about an astronaut. So it is this really strange movie where it's during the Vietnam era, and there are so many soldiers who are claiming to be crazy that they are just not sure. Like they suppose that most of them are trying to get out of being in the army. Right, and go home early. So there's a special castle set up for them that looks like Dracula's castle, looks like Frankenstein's castle. They make several references to that this looks like Dracula's castle, and they have all these servicemen from Vietnam there who are claiming to be crazy in their own unique ways. And they bring in a psychiatrist played by Stacy Keach. So I don't know if you remember Stacy Keach, but he was cast as Father Karras. Yes, before William Friedkin fell in love instead with Jason Miller.
Right.
So he is the straight man, if you will. He is running this insane asylum with all these crazy characters. Some of them think that they're Superman. Some of them think that they are that they're nuns and they dress up as nuns. Jason Miller is in the movie. And I don't know what scene you saw.
This was the scene. Yeah, I saw the Jason Miller scene, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so like it was such a treat.
So he is a comic role. It's a very funny movie. So Jason Miller is playing a soldier who is now putting on a reconstructed complete works of Shakespeare rewritten for dogs. So he's directing it with the guy who plays Rocky's loan shark boss. You know, that guy from the Godfather and Rocky. So that's his assistant director, and he's bringing to Jason Miller all these different dogs. And so, what do you think about this dog for him? It says, "Don't get me a Great Dane. That would just be too on the nose." People start asking questions for it. And so Stacy Keach, we've talked a lot about Father Karras having this mask on him. Stacy Keach, I thought it was a strange choice for him to be Father Karras, because I think of him from his later works as being a very expressive actor, like having a lot of rage and simmering. So the Ninth Configuration gives you a good look at what he might have done as Father Karras, where he has all that rage and all that stuff behind the eyes, but he's incredibly soft-spoken.
Interesting.
And really, really buttoned down until he can't take it anymore. So it's interesting to see them have scenes together now, knowing that Stacy Keach was replaced as Father Karras by Jason Miller.
You have the two would-be father, well, the one Father Karras and the would-be Father Karras playing opposite of each other. That is really cool.
In very funny scenes with dog actors coming in. Like there's that dog that looks like a mop, I don't know what breed that is. Yeah. And that's the lead dog who's going to play Hamlet and I guess Mark Antony and Julius Caesar. They're sort of mixing them together.
Didn't Jason Miller like have a line? His character is like, he's like, no, Laurence Olivier, you, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So the main relationship in the Ninth Configuration, though, is with Stacy Keach's psychiatrist, who is working with an astronaut played by Scott Wilson.
Okay.
And Scott Wilson's character, it turns out, was going to the moon and was on the launch pad in an Apollo mission and then had a nervous breakdown and stops going to the moon. He stops on the launch pad during the countdown and has a nervous breakdown and stops and has to be pulled off of it. And he yells in front of everybody, all the cameras and stuff for the Apollo mission, that the mission is doomed and that no one should go to the moon. We can't go to the moon.
Wow.
Yeah. So when Blatty was writing the novel Twinkle Twinkle Killer Kane, which became the Ninth Configuration, he had this character that he wrote, and that character has some kind of resolution, but it's more of an ambiguous story. And then he wrote The Exorcist, and in his mind, again, so in his headcanon, but he's the writer of both of these.
Right. So his headcanon is kind of like the objective thing, I guess.
Suppose so, but it's not written down anywhere. But that astronaut in the Ninth Configuration is the same astronaut in The Exorcist.
Wow.
So, of course, the timing of it now, because The Exorcist takes place in some kind of unspecified early 1970s, right?
Right.
The Ninth Configuration movie takes place sometime still during the Vietnam War. So, potentially, The Exorcist is a prequel to the Ninth Configuration, or however you want to say it.
Interesting.
Where Reagan says to him, "You're going to die up there," and then he has a freak out and says, "We can't go to the moon. We can't go to the moon. We can't go to the moon."
Some little girl told me I was going to die up there.
She's on the wing.
She's on the wing.
Yeah, so we don't have confirmation because we don't have the name of this astronaut. He's not named in the book or the screenplay or the movie. But yeah, as far as Blatty was concerned, they were the same. And they're played by different actors. Scott Wilson in the other movie is
I was going to say that,
actor. Yeah. But yeah, so this is taking place before the Ninth Configuration if you're trying to make it into a Blatty-verse and make everything make sense.
Right.
And that character, the Ninth Configuration is a very, very interesting movie. It's very funny at the beginning and then it gets very serious. There's some imagery that is completely shocking. Some people called it the most surrealistic film that we have from the Hollywood studio system. And I think that's pretty close. There is a shot that is really disturbing and really famous that I don't think I'm spoiling because now it's the poster to the movie when you try to buy it on Amazon. And it wasn't the original poster, but it is a shot of our astronaut on the moon. And he's walking through the moon and over these voiceovers about the meaning of life and meaning of death and very Blatty-esque stuff. And he turns to look and the shot pulls out some more and there is a crucifixion. There's Jesus being crucified on the moon. And so it's a shot of the crucifixion with an astronaut on the moon watching it. And yeah, that's quite something else.
You maniacs! You crucified him! Damn you all to hell!
He came to bring peace.
And you washed your hands. Get your paws off me, you damn dirty Roman.
Yeah, it's quite something else. You should watch the rest of it at some point. Quite a good movie. That was the first movie I saw of the new year, and I was very happy.
Interesting. Okay. Well, now I have to see it. I was not aware that Jason Miller was in it, much less that he was doing a comedic role in there. And I'm such a sucker for seeing dramatic actors doing comedic roles. I love it so much. And vice versa. I love seeing an actor that I know of from one movie do something completely different in another movie.
Yeah, I think it's a good crossover because we talk about Blatty being this comic writer, but so how does he get to all these deep existential themes? And the Ninth Configuration has both of them in equal measure.
Nice. Yeah, so everybody check out Ninth Configuration, and I certainly will as well. And so, yeah, then we have the beginning of the famous scene here, Reagan staring at this guy while she pees on the rug. And again, folks, pay attention to how this demon behaves. I know, like I just said, that I like how unique it is, but also I believe there is a purpose behind all of this. There's a reason that he's not just piloting Reagan's body so he can like shoot fire and lightning and talk about hell and steal your soul, right? Typical Hollywood devil stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Our Captain Howdy doesn't spit fire. He spits green pea soup, right? Why? There's a reason. He's not attacking anyone here. He's just being gross and disturbing. Like most of his attacks, we'll see that they're rooted in repulsion, mm-hmm. right? He is repelling people, right? This is a repellent behavior. More importantly, this is a human repellent behavior. A lot of the stuff that he's doing is stuff that humans do, natural human bodily functions, right? There's one or two supernatural things, but we'll get to those when we get to them. But for now, keep that in mind. How this demon behaves, I personally think it's important for later. Mm-hmm. So yeah, our minute ends, as we said, with Chris looking deeply concerned and asking, Reagan? And we'll have to wait until the next minute to see how the rest of this scene plays out. But yeah, Keenan, is there anything else we want to talk about in this minute?
No, we covered a lot of ground.
Folks, this has been another excellent Exorcist Minute. I've been Lester Ryan Clark. You can reach me on all the socials as Lester Ryan Clark.
And I'm Keenan Diaz, and you could find me on Instagram and Letterboxd as Howdy Keenan.
Our website for the show is theexorcistminute.com. We also have a Facebook page, so if you want to share us with your friends, right, you can head on over there and give us a little like and a follow. We'll also have like updates on the show and little memes and stuff like that from specifically the Exorcist Minute Facebook page. And we also have a listener group on Facebook. It's called Compelling Conversations, an Exorcist Minute listener group. Just request to join and we'll let you in, and then you can be in here with us and you can talk about the movie, interact with us, interact with other fans of the movie and the show. Of course, if you'd like to leave us a message, our email is theexorcistminute@gmail.com, all one word. We definitely want to hear from you. We want to hear your story in connection with this film, how you got introduced to it, like what was the scariest moment for you? Who's your favorite character?
What's your ideal vision of heaven?
What's your ideal vision of heaven? Yeah. We want to hear all of that stuff. Lastly, if you like the show and you want to help us out, the best thing you can do for a new podcast that is just starting out is to leave us a little 5-star review. And that'll help the algorithm. That'll help other people find us, and we can keep growing this cool community. I've already met so many cool people already. I want to meet more of you guys. So yeah. That's pretty much it. Keenan, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I think I am, Lester.
Folks, until next time. The power of Archie Bunker compels you. Hey,
Archie.
Boyd away, Glenn Miller played
songs that made the hit parade.
Guys like us, we had it made.
Those were the days. And you knew where you were then.
Girls were girls and men were men.
Mister, we could use a man like Herbert Hoover again.